Hello, everybody. It's Vertical Sandwich. Welcome back outside. So, yeah, I might be a little crooked. Am I a little crooked? Maybe. Who knows? Who cares? If the background is a little crooked, it doesn't matter. You should be paying attention to me. Mwah. And if I'm a little crooked, well, maybe like this, huh? Maybe like this. Anyway, so, uh, so for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be dealing with a series. Now, normally I would do a series one after another, but like all in one week. But all of these are Hugo Award winners, and they're all parts of an overarching series. So it's kind of different. Like these books are not necessarily sequential. Basically, what we're talking about is this, right? So like this is Barrayar, the second book to win, but the first chronologically in the series. So Louise McMaster Bujold is one of two people who has won 4 Hugo Award winners for Best Novel, the other being Heinlein. Now, that being said, she won one of them for Paladin Soul, which we talked about and I loved, and she won the other 3 for books in a series she's written called the Vorkasigan Saga, and it's like 15 books or something. It's a crazy amount of books, and they're not necessarily, they all take place in the same universe. They're not necessarily all chronological in the way that you would, think about, you don't have to read you'd have to read book 4 to understand book 7 or something. That's not necessarily true. There is one character that kind of has a plot line all through them, and all 3 of these books deal with that character. It seems like chronologically there maybe is, this book and the book that I'm going to talk about next week follow directly one another. This is the beginning of kind of this family line, and then boom, there's like a character from this carries on to the next book, and then that character is also the protagonist in the book we're talking about after that. They won in 91, 92, and 95. So this is the winner from 92, and again, it was written after the book. It's like a prequel to the book that we're going to talk about next week. So this is Barrayar, a novel by Louise McMaster Bujold. So let's read the back. Well, I can't, because this. See, I can't. Yeah, but so let's just talk about the general overarching plot line of kind of what happens. So what this is about a woman from a higher tech society meeting a man who is kind of a feudal lord on a medieval level society. Like they know that technology exists and they have space travel and things like that, but they and marrying him and kind of going into this this kind of paternal society where women are, wives and mothers, and there's kind of an inherent, idea about, the gender roles, and that is counter to what she expects, and her having her first child, and her, she comes from a place where children are raised in incubators, and she's in a place where that is just a thing where nobody would ever do that. And yeah, so she has these ideas about, like she's setting aside these ideas of kind of female empowerment and kind of the cleanly sterilization of the planet that she was born on to move to this place where not so much, where men are men and women are women, and there's a class system and an emperor and things like that. And her husband ends up being the regent for a child emperor. Like the emperor at the time is a young child, and so somebody has to be in charge while this kid until this kid comes of age. And so what happens is she's settled into this life. She becomes pregnant, and intrigue, like court intrigue, follows. So we are outside, so if you see me look to the side, it's probably a bug or a bird or something, because I live out in the middle of nowhere. Everybody knows this at this point. This is the middle of nowhere. And we made it through an entire winter doing book reviews inside. Um, I should say that as of right now, the nominees for 2020 have been put up. So for the Hugo Awards. So once they announce an award winner, I will not have read them all anymore. Now, okay. So let's just read a little bit from the inside so we get a feel for Louise McMaster Bujold's kind of writing style. The Major put Gregor comfortably, that's the child emperor, comfortably padded by the bedroll and saddlebags up behind him. Cordelia faced one more climb onto that torture device for humans and horses called a saddle. She would never have made it without Bothari. The Major took her reins this time, and Rose and his horse walked side by side, with a lot less jerking of the bridle. Bothari dropped back, trailing watchfully. "So," said the old man after a time, with a sideways look at her, "you're the new Lady Vorkis again." Cordelia, rumpled and filthy, smiled back desperately. "Yes, Count Piotr didn't mention your name, Major, Amar Kliubi, milady, but folks up here just call me Cly." What are you, besides some mountain kobold Piotr had conjured out of the ground?" He smiled, an expression more repellent than attractive, given the state of his teeth. "I'm the Imperial Mail, milady. I ride the circuit through these hills out of Vorkis every 10 days. Been at it for 18 years. There are grown kids up here with kids of their own who never knew me as anything but Cly the Mail." "I thought mail went to these parts by light flyer." "Yeah, they're phasing them in. But the flyers don't go to every house, just to those central drop points. No courtesy to it anymore." He spat disgust in Gumleaf. "But if the general will hold them off another 2 years here, I'll make my last 20 and be a triple 20 years service man. I retired with my double 20, see?" "From what branch, Major Kliubi?" "Imperial Rangers." He watched slyly for her reaction. She rewarded him with impressed raised brows. "I was a throat cutter, not a tech. That's why I could never go higher than Major. Got my start at age 14 in these mountains, running rings around the Setagandans with the General and Izar. Never did get back to school after that, just training courses. Service passed me by in time." "Not entirely, it seems," said Cordelia, staring around the apparently unpeopled wilderness. "No." His breath became a pursed-lipped sigh as he glanced back over his shoulder at Gregor in meditative unease. "Did Piotr tell you what happened yesterday afternoon?" "Yo, I left the lake day before yesterday morning. Missed all the excitement. I expect the news will catch up with me before noon." "Is anything else likely to catch up with us by then?" "We'll just have to see," he added more hesitantly. "You'll have to get out of these clothes, milady. The name Vorkis again, A in big black letters over your jacket pocket, isn't any too anonymous." So at this point, Cordelia and the child emperor are hiding out because people are trying to kind of take the throne. And yeah, so I have to say some things. I'm not a huge fan of the Vorkis again saga in general. The kind of idea of, like a space opera, like an overarching series of space opera, like kind of thing. It has its, it has a lackluster kind of feel to me. Like, I don't mind people writing series. That's not a thing that I mind. I mean, sometimes I mind it, but this series is really interesting when it gets into the weird, but the overarching story, which tends to focus on the child that she bears in this book. This is kind of the beginning of Miles Vorkisigan's kind of career in the saga. Miles as a character is uninteresting to me. His mother, however, is fantastic, and Barrayar is actually a pretty good book. About first off, it's got some things that science fiction lacked for a really long time, which was like smart, sensible, empowered female protagonist. It does some really good stuff with somebody transplanting themselves into a domestic relationship and kind of accommodating another person for love. Like, it's kind of interesting, and she doesn't stop being. Like, her life is kind of this consistent fight against these men who think women are only good for, like, cooking and bearing children. That stuff is done really well, and it makes Barrayar very interesting. Now, what it does, what the series does later is actually no concern to this book. This book is fun, and it's worth a read, and there are some things that are very, there are some things that are very interesting about, like, her husband being very supportive, but then having a part of himself that's just like, well, yeah, I love you. However, this entire planet thinks you're wrong, like, which is really kind of fun. And again, I like that. I like that the book has a bunch of exciting kind of stuff going on, like this poison gas attack, and them having to flee the palace, hide in the mountains with this male guy, and like protect this baby, this emperor who's like 6 or something. And I like that. And then at the same time, she's this really well trained like military commando leader of men, and the entire planet is just like, you're just some woman. Like, it's really kind of nice that way, and that stuff is fantastic. I really like it. And here's the problem. So Cordelia and Errol Vorkosigan are overarching characters in the saga, right? They show up a lot, especially since the protagonist of a lot of the books is their son. And they're interesting characters. And you really you should read this first. You should absolutely read this first, because the next book will absolutely ruin everything that goes on in this book, because that book, this is the prequel to that book. And you want to know these characters really well if you're going to read other books in the Vorkosigan saga. Now, some of the books from the saga take place 100 years before this one, with obviously characters that cannot be included in these. So, I mean, it's more of a, it's more of a world, like a world sharing kind of story structure. Although there are something like 7 books or something that follow out of the 12 or 15 or whatever. There's a lot that follow Miles Vorkosigan, who we'll talk about in the next book, which is called The Board Game, I believe. So, I mean, I actually really liked this book. And it's a shame that I thought I read the weakest book, I think, first. And because I read this one second. Because chronologically, it's the second winner. So I read them in order. I was like, well, you clearly read the winner from 1991 before you read the winner from 1992. No. Read Barrayar, come back and read, The Board Game or whatever. And then, read some of those, then you can read Mirror Dance. I think it's Mirror Dance. Yeah, it is Mirror Dance. And Mirror Dance? Oh, we're going to say great things about Mirror Dance. Mirror Dance is ridiculous. But I liked Barrayar. Barrayar, science fiction has kind of this interesting struggle with female main characters, right? Because it was a genre dominated by men for a long time. And obviously, Louise Bujold is a female author. So she has a decided advantage over, Robert Heinlein about writing women. Now, that being said, it's just nice to see kind of stable, strong characters that are female. Because even when female characters kind of make it in to being main characters, they're not necessarily these kind of traditional heroes. They tend to be very, almost writing focuses on the flaw of being female. That, and there is no indication that Cordelia is flawed by being female. She is as capable, as she continues to insist, she is as capable as any of the men in this book at doing what she wants to do. And nobody believes that but her husband. But there's something nice about that, because, if what you get are if what you get are female characters, and it's just like, well, they're almost as good as men, but girls. That's a rough message. That's a rough message across the line in general. And I don't think that it's necessarily literature's job to inform you how you should feel about, your own, sex or the opposite sex, whatever. But, I mean, certainly you can't, the message realistically, let's think about some things here, right? I'm a dude, and there is no doubt that no matter what I decide to do with my life, someone does it better. There's 7 billion people in the world. and some of them are female. Like, that is a certainty. Like, I'm not the best at any single thing I do. Um, like, there's a girl out there doing it better. Like, and some guys. I mean, there's some guys and some girls. You know, like, and that's all right. That's the human condition. Kurt Vonnegut once said, you know, don't go out, like, don't go to the big city because you're bound to meet Mozart. And, like, just stay home where you can be, you know, big fish in a small pond. Like, that stuff being said, so I like that somebody doesn't take for granted that, like, the problem is womanhood, right? The problem isn't womanhood. The problem is, like, a society that doesn't give people the opportunity to be the best thing that they can be, which is nice. It's kind of a nice little message. It's definitely a reinforcing message if you believe in the meritocracy of America or any other meritocratic society. But I liked it. I liked Cordelia as a character. I liked her. I liked the fact that she was unafraid of telling people how good she was and stuff, and then backing it up with action. And she makes a good action hero. Like, she makes a good kind of decisive action hero who happens to be struggling with these, you know, there's an entire society that doesn't expect her nor allow her to be those things, and she is unashamed about being those things, and it's fun. It's very good. It's very well done, and it was an enjoyable read, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. We're gonna say like there's an interesting contrast that we'll get to in a minute because, well, in about 4 weeks, because we're gonna talk about. I think every single novel I have in front of me was either written by a woman or has. Were they all? Every single novel. I have 6 novels sitting in front of me, and every one of them was written by a woman. That's really cool. Okay, so when we come, and all of them won Hugo Awards. So when we come back, the board game. I'll see you guys for that. Bye, everybody.